You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
You're so good with your cup. I forgot mine today. How are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I think we need to get you a ring light. Okay, there we go. You're a little more bright right there. You're really
it's going to come in and out. I'm amateur hour. This is just natural sunlight.
Yeah, I'm going to get you a ring light for Christmas. That's going to be my gift to you, Scott. Check. I got that one.
Well, you look wonderful. You look very tan. You look like a model.
Oh, yes.
You're just hanging out in the sun, working.
Just Claudia Schiffer. I said Claudia Schiffer yesterday. My kids were like, who is that? And I was like, I'm old. Oh, Scott. Today, we're doing an intern project. Have you heard of Entrepreneurship KC? They're doing these intern projects. And so you get interns, you give them a project to do, and then they're all competing. There's 20 teams of businesses in Kansas City, and then they're high school and going into freshman year of college. They next week all 20 teams will go up, and then they'll pick 5, and then one of them wins, and they win $5,000 towards college, one of the teams, right? So today on my team, somehow this came up, and I said, so you guys know, like in the movie Sister Act 2, and they all looked at me like I was the oldest person they've ever seen in their life. It was one of the saddest things of my whole life.
Hopefully you didn't reference Sister Act 2, because I've learned the hard way. I've referenced like Jurassic Park in a meeting, and like the high schoolers like, what are you talking about? But before we dive into Bank of Blue Valley, you got to tell everyone about the wedding you went to of 2 very special people that have also been on the show.
Right.
So tell everyone.
So look, this is called henna. So our friends Shivani and Carlo got married this week. And it actually was a ton of people that have been on this show. Carlo's been on this show. So they got married, and Shivani is Indian. And so they had a traditional Indian wedding on Friday. But the night before, this is fun. In Indian culture, you have a Mendi night where the women go and the couple gifts them things. And one of the things that they gift you is getting your henna done. So we got to go do this. And then Friday we went to their Indian traditional wedding. And then Saturday we went to their Western wedding, and it was gorgeous. Hotel Kansas City, Sarah, who runs that place, has been on the show. So it was so much fun, and it was gorgeous, and it was all the things. But yes, you'll see me like this for the next couple of weeks, because it stays like 2 to 3 weeks.
So to wrap it full circle, our sponsor, Bank of Blue Valley, has really grown Overland Park from the grassroots up, and has become a major Kansas City and large player throughout the region. And Bob Rainier to Wendy Reynolds to the new CEO, Brent, who will be filming some very cool cameos here shortly, have really helped grow Overland Park. So Overland Park may have its first Indian mayor. Fingers crossed, that would be cool. But a lot of people that they don't realize that Overland Park has so many wonderful, amazing leaders in Kansas City. And we have one of the best Asian chambers of commerce, which we need to do a better job of having on the show. But it's kind of a cool cultures clashing like we have on this show, and just so cool to watch Bank of Blue Valley support all that growth.
You know what else is really fun that we need to probably have someone from on the show is the Japanese American Society. My grandmother's Japanese, and so I did a lot with them when I was little, and they have some amazing events. So if you are in any of these awesome organizations, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on the show. All right. How about we have the people for today on the show?
Let's go.
Okay. First of all, I want to say hi to a couple people here. Matt, he says you're glowing, Scott. Happy drinks with leaders. Hi, Matt. Joel, congrats, Scott, on winning Top of the Torch Awards 4 years in a row. They should name it the Havens. What is that, Scott?
So Kenny Burkhead and Brian Sarf do an award, and it's a joke where I literally was like, hey, if I refer a ton of business, will you make a trophy? And they made a trophy, and it's turned into one of the most wonderful events of the year. So Joel, thank you for saying that. It's a great group of business nerds that get together for their organization, True Wealth, which, just to give a shout out, they give great service and they're a great organization.
Awesome. Okay, look, you're too humble. You need to start telling us when you win stuff. And Mike Meyer says, watch it on LinkedIn. Ready, ready, ready. Toby says, hello, two of my favorite people. Well, hello, Toby, one of our favorite people. So get over here. I do have to say this, and I'm going to say this 50,000 times on the show today if I need to, because we do not have questions from Wendy Reynolds yet. And because we don't have them from the new CEO, I'm going to choose audience questions today. So start asking your questions now so we can ask them of our panelists later. David, hi, how are you? All right, you ready? I'm going to do music and intros.
Oh.
All right, here we go. Very loud. Our first guest today is Caroline. Our second guest today is Kara. Our third guest today with some fabulous earrings on is Rebecca. And last but certainly not least, Jeremy. Fading out the music. Oh my God, we're so professional.
That was great.
How are you guys? Did you like that?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's sporty. It's a sporty show. All right. Well, start asking your questions over here in the comments, and we're going to start introducing you to everyone. So, Caroline, who are you? What did you do, and how do you get to Kansas City?
Yeah, Caroline Ohmes, precision team lead for Scribe, where we work on building relationships with small businesses so that we can provide bookkeeping services. Through what I've learned in the leadership at Scribe, I've been given the opportunity to start a local blog called Locally Told KC, where we promote leaders doing good things, small businesses involved in nonprofits and nonprofits themselves, just spreading the good news and helping promote, helping bring people in the community to those nonprofits and those causes. I came to Kansas City, job out of college. Husband and I both got jobs here from St. Louis, and we've been growing and changing ever since, and just kind of diving into the network and the nonprofit community of Kansas City.
Caroline, I got to ask the St. Louis question. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to ask you where you went.
Cardinals, definitely Cardinals.
Yeah, that's right. Can you give a little bit of the origin story of how Scribe started? A lot of people may not realize its unique origination. So can you kind of tell us a little bit more about your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So Scribe is actually a 30-plus-year-old company, and they started as Scribe Inc. And they started doing AP for large companies like AT&T, DirecTV, Sears, and things like that. So they really did an indirect where they organize all their billing. And it was a huge service. It was white page listings, like organization of that huge service back when white page listings were relevant. But as we know, as times change, white page listings became irrelevant. And they really made that part of the business extremely profitable, automated it down to one person, one body it took to run the company. So they sold that part of the business off and started diving into what's our purpose as a business. And they came to the conclusion that they wanted to enable people to live life to the fullest. And what that meant was through their connections, through business owners, they found business owners needed more time. And how do you give a business owner time? Well, you help organize their back office. If they can look at their books and know that they're in line, they can make action moves with their business, as well as if they don't have to go back to the office after out doing sales, field work, all of the client facing or relationship building prospects of their business, and they don't have to go home and then sit in their office at home and work on those books, then they have the time they need to live life. They're enabled to, whatever that looks like, if they want to invest in things, if they want to go golfing, if they want to go to their kids' basketball games or volunteer at their church or community service, they had the time if their books are in order, and then they can make decisions for their business, no concerns. So that's where Scribe really started growing and changing, and we've been focusing on the small business sector for the last 5 years.
You just hit that out of the park. That was a really good answer. Everyone's thinking to themselves, how do I teach myself how to do that? Or my associates had to do that, but way to really just crush that. What do you do for your organization?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to work with the people I do, and we actually get to, stem out. And I'm fortunate to be able to build relationships the way I want. So I'm not a salesperson, even though I'm the kind of the front-facing person for the company. But that's how I spun up Locally Told and things like that. Is I said I'm going to go out and have conversations with people. If they like me and if they like the relationship we're establishing, they'll know I do bookkeeping. They'll know who I work with and what relationships I might benefit them. But really, it's just about me going out there and, being as genuine and nice and getting to know people as much as I can in the community.
I love that. And you're going to have to tell us more about Locally Told in a little bit. So
Absolutely.
To learn more about that. Kara, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Well, I'm Kara Lowe. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the KC Tech Council. We serve as the industry advocate for the tech industry here in the region. We are membership based. We have about 170 companies that invest in us on an annual basis, runs the gamut from Cerner and Garmin to small 2-3 person startup type companies and just about everything in between. We also count among our members a lot of companies that you would maybe not think of as tech companies, but really rely on a strong and sustainable tech industry to continue to grow. So that's who I work for the Tech Council. I help to make sure that those investors remain. The way I think I put it this morning at a breakfast meeting was, I want to make sure they joyfully continue to invest in the work that we do, and I think that's important. You don't want them to feel obligated and want them to really buy into, what we do for the industry, which is help shore up a really strong workforce for the tech industry to rely on in Kansas City. That's the currency of tech, is making sure you have the talent to do the work. We do a lot of policy advocacy. So we travel to DC, we travel to our state capitals and advocate for issues that help the tech industry grow and thrive. And then we make sure that leaders within the industry know one another. And that's why I'm excited to do great opportunities like this to, make sure that we're plugged into the leadership community in Kansas City, and that, a lot of tech company leaders didn't really know each other even 5, 6, 10 years ago, because these are not companies that have been around for a crazy long time. So, and in some industries, you've got folks that have been playing golf together for 45 years. That's not really the way it is in tech. So we're excited to open up that kind of sandbox of opportunity to connect those leaders as well. And I never really got to Kansas City because I've been here the whole time. I was born and raised. I did take a 4-year hiatus and headed out to Lawrence, went to KU, met my husband who's from Chicago, dragged him back here with me, and now we live in the Brookside area with our 2 kids. So glad to be here with you all.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, because you don't just get to the position that you're at today without the background of getting into it. So what led you prior? What was your work experience prior? Because your position is a very tough position to achieve because you're working with so many different amazing leaders in technology. So what was your career path leading up to what you do today?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a non-traditional answer. So my background, I think the through line in my career has always been supporting Kansas City and building relationships. So my first job out of KU, I was wholly underqualified for. I was hired to manage promotions and events for the country club class. So I ran art fair and the wedding ceremony and all of those kind of beloved Kansas City traditions. When you work for that property, you really sit at the crossroads of what's going on in the community. So I got to work on like the All-Star Parade remember when that was here back in 2012, and a host of other really cool Kansas City events. When you start your career that way, it really kind of lights you up to keep looking for opportunities to keep Kansas City growing and leverage your own skills to do that. And one of the skills I think I've honed throughout the years is building those relationships with companies. I did that with art fair sponsors, a million years ago, to now working in a much more kind of holistic fashion where we plug into what companies are looking for, to help ensure that they're growing in a thriving tech industry. And that, those conversations have taken different forms, and I'm no longer talking about, the banner size that you're putting above the main stage at the event, but instead I'm talking about, we've got this really great workforce program that then overlays with what your motivations are, what your needs are. So I think both have always been about solving problems for Kansas City companies and and helping to grow this region that I'm passionate about, and that, as I put earlier, I've never really left.
Well, that's awesome. My only disclaimer for the Tech Council is you got to make sure you're committed, because you provide your members so many opportunities to connect to so many great companies. But if they sponsor it and then they don't go, they're losing out on opportunities. So they really need to make sure that they champion and that they're there, because you provide them a great platform to meet people. So if you ever need someone to, point their finger at someone and say, hey, make sure you're showing up, let me know.
You're a show up guy, Scott. I like that. That's good, because you get out of it what you put into it. That's true of anything.
You show up late when you got partners like Aaron, but you show up.
I was like, this is quite the advice. Let me lean in and listen.
No.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Well, you guys changed it up on me. So, Jeremy, who are you? What are you doing? How do you get to Kansas City?
Hello, Aaron. Hello, Scott. Hello, everybody. So I'm kind of like Karen a little bit. I started in the Kansas City metro area in Leavenworth, Kansas. When I left high school, I decided to join this thing called the Army. The Army took me many places, and I saw a lot of beautiful things, but there was no place like home. And there's a reference to a movie I've never seen. So anyways, with that, I love Kansas City. I love the Plaza. I'm a huge Chiefs fan, a huge Royals fan. And just through some experiences, I wanted to contribute in any way I could to come back to Kansas City. And one of the things that I did in my previous life is I learned what my why was. And the two most important days in a person's life is the day they are born and the day they find out why. That's an old Mark Twain quote. And with Simon Sinek, doing the Golden Compass and kind of focusing on our why, I found my why is to mine golden people. How I do that is I do speaking, coaching, and training through a lot of different programs. I'm an executive director with the John Maxwell team. I've been blessed to do leadership speaking all over the country and internationally. And finally, what I really love to do is to celebrate people's success, because I'm excited to hear about everybody today. I always tell people I'm the muted guy, and then when I get a little bit of energy, I start bouncing a little bit. I get really excited, because what I really love to do is celebrate people's success through discovering values, through performance management, executive coaching, and really just diving in to take all that dirt out of some of that junk that we have in our mind to be able to see the gold that's in people. So that's kind of what I do.
Jeremy, thank you for your service. And secondly, where were you and what were you doing? Do you remember like the date and time when you figured out your why, or like were you at a certain location?
Actually, absolutely. That's a great question. So I was a leadership development instructor, and it's kind of a funny story. I used to teach National Guard, active duty, and I had this gentleman come in, and he said he had some problems with his employees. He was a pretty small company, had about 40 employees, and about 4 or 5 of his top performers left. And so he said, can I call you when I go back home from this leadership school? And so he and I worked together for about 4 months to do some coaching and just kind of develop a communication and feedback process. And he told me about 6 months after that, he goes, Jeremy, not only do I have my 4 guys that left, I've hired some amazing people, and I've not only improved myself, but my relationship with my spouse, my relationship with my work. And he goes, I think you're kind of good at this. And I was like, well, I'm just passionate about seeing you be successful. He goes, I think that you're phenomenal at that. And I was like, wow, really? And then it dawned on me, maybe I could do this. And just really sum up, he passed my name around till the 7th person called, and he says, well, how much do I owe you? I was like, people don't make money at this. He goes, I think you found a job. And I was like, wow. So that's kind of how I found my why is, I don't want to say through happenstance, but just building relationships and just valuing people at a high level.
So, Jeremy, I do a lot of speaking. It's like my favorite thing ever. What is one of your most memorable speaking events? Where were you, and who else was on the stage with you?
That's a great question. So that one's actually happened just about a month and a half ago. In Ontario, Canada. Now this is a virtual platform. I was able to share the stage with John Maxwell CEO Mark Cole, and he was a great gentleman, just kind of really poured into my life, not only the few thousand people that were there. And the thing that I was talking about was this thing called keys to success. And 2 things I absolutely believe in being a key to success is, number one is to let everybody know that everybody's ever had a bad day. And you don't know the story that somebody's experiencing in that moment. So if we can know that, number one, that everybody's in their own story, and the second one is positive influence has the ability to change people's lives. So if we can influence everybody in every moment and every interaction, we can create a powerful connection and hopefully positively influence them so they can have one of their best days ever. So that's what I talked about. I'm a little passionate about it, so I'll just kind of sit here and smile.
That's fun that you talk about the CEO. So I will tell you, just so you can put this on your resume, John Maxwell used to do a lot of speaking alongside Les Brown, and Les Brown has been on the show. So now you've also shared that platform as well. So yes,
Awesome.
He was our guest, our last guest of the year in 2020. We ended with a bang. So look at Scott. He's so proud.
Well, Les Brown loves Aaron, so I had nothing to do with it, but I watched.
It was cool. You were here. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Jeremy. Rebecca, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Well, hello, I am Rebecca Swank. I am the Director of Community Engagement at Job One. My top 3 favorite things in the world are God, my incredible family, and everything Kansas City, specifically the people, the barbecue, the sports. I love all of it. I'm a Kansas City Metro native. I grew up in Blue Springs. I went to Mizzou and received my degree in hotel and restaurant management. Moved to Paraguay, South America, where I managed a boutique hotel that may or may not have been run by the mafia. That's another story. And when my visas expired, I returned to the United States and had the pleasure of working at SMG, or Service Management Group, Global Connections, and Foster Dental Care. And it was that I first was introduced to Job One. With some prompting from Dr. Foster, he connected us to the Job One careers team, and together we carved out a position for an individual with disabilities to join the team. She worked about 8 hours a week, putting together toothbrush kits, new patient gift bags, laundry, and other tasks. And she's awesome. We just love her to pieces. And from that connection, there was an opportunity to join the Job One family, and I dove in, and I'm so excited. I'm celebrating my 2 years there this August. And for those of you who are not familiar with Job One, they are a social enterprise. We've been around for over 5 decades, and we build skills and connections that create employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities. So we do that through direct hire at our packaging and assembly facility. We support them if they want to pursue integrated community employment. We have Ability One federal contracts, and this past spring, we launched our community-based day services. So some pretty awesome stuff happening.
What are some other services? I mean, there's lots of them out there, but maybe like a top 3 that people in the business community don't think about that they can work and engage with Job One.
Yeah, so there's so many different ways. So, we support mailroom, janitorial, kitting. We love putting together kits in our packaging and assembly facility. We have great partnerships there with like the roastery. Anytime you see a specialty bag that has come through our facility, it's been labeled by our individuals. We have a cause blend, so you can get some yummy coffee from them that supports Job One. There's lots of opportunity, and you can get pretty creative. We have a neurodiverse, the superpowers of neurodiversity is a presentation that we've given to as a part of the Kansas City Chamber's Diversity Inclusion Series, and some other chambers we've presented that to, and where we get to celebrate those neurodiverse individuals and think about all the different ways that we can carve out and restructure our jobs. I think this past year has been a great example of how everyone has pivoted and become flexible and realized that it doesn't have to be rigid. And if we can remember that, we can really support individuals that are, neurodiverse and awesome.
Have you been to, is it called the Golden Spoon?
Yes. Yeah. We actually are partners with them in a way. They have agreed so graciously to be an assessment site for us. So for our careers team, they want to, we talk to the people, our clients that we're serving, and say, what do you like? What do you want to do? And if they say, I want to try working in an ice cream shop, we say, great, let's go to Golden Scoop, and you can practice scooping ice cream or working a cash register or brewing coffee. And so there's some really neat opportunities there to partner with them, and they're awesome.
Correct me if I'm wrong. because I've just seen a lot on social media, which is where I get all my news. So a lot of times I'm wrong. The Golden Scoop is ran entirely by people with disabilities. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
I see. It's very popular. People love it.
Yes, yeah, it's good ice cream, good coffee. It's a good vibe. You feel good when you go there. So they've been really gracious to us, and we love it. And then the summer, I forgot to mention this. This summer, every year we do our summer work experience program, and that supports high school juniors who are neurodiverse. If they're going into their senior year, they get work. They get their first summer job and get to add that line item to their resume. And so they're working all over the metro. Kansas City Zoo. They're working at roasting coffee beans in Kansas City Coffee Roasters. Waiting tables at Sandy. They're all over the metro, and so that's been pretty cool too. So there's lots of opportunities out there. It's just got to look for them.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Meyer also says he is a Blue Springs grad, so you can get found over Blue Springs.
I played the clarinet and piano with the Meyer family.
There you go. I feel like everybody at some point walked into a Meyer store, right?
Yeah.
It's like a clarinet or a flute I hear about. So I was the flute. So awesome. Well, this is usually where we jump in with a Wendy Reynolds question. But like we said earlier, we don't have those questions. So if you have a question, leave it over here. I'm just going to keep talking about it. But I already kind of teed you guys up. Let's talk about a win we've had this past, I guess we're at a year and a half. The question used to be this past few months of the year. But, we're still fighting this thing. We see a lot of negativity in the media. So what is a win that you've had, Caroline, this past year?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it is kind of the self-discovery of, the types of conversations and the people I want to have conversations with. So we did launch the Locally Told KC blog this year for Kansas City. As I mentioned before, I wanted to build relationships with people and have conversations outside of just, what can I do for you? What can my business do for you? And what can your business do for me? And, kind of that checklist scenario of a networking meeting was, well, one, it's always drags on, but when you do it via Zoom meetings over and over again, it was becoming just like I was miserable, to be honest. And so I decided I want to talk to people and learn who they are and what they're doing for the community around them, because I love community. And so I started meeting with just, business owners I knew. Women-owned businesses was kind of the first focus. And so we wrote up some of their stories and started posting them online. And it's really manifested into a more nonprofit approach. And so the win is that it just keeps growing. I get messages in my inbox daily. Hey, I saw your blog. Can I feature my nonprofit? Hearing of people who are starting nonprofits overseas, but own a business in Kansas City, people of different cultural backgrounds and things like that. And then going out to those business meetings and saying, oh, yeah, you want a connection. This is great. Let's do it in a nonprofit way. Let's do it through the community. Let's do it through the heart and soul of what makes businesses thrive. And that's the people around you. And so that big win is, one, learning that, and then seeing that grow in myself and seeing that grow for the businesses around me.
How many articles have you done, or how many blogs, and what percentage are non-for-profit and what percentage are business?
That's a great question. So I don't have exact numbers. I started in January. I try to post one about every week. So what are we, about 26 weeks into the year? So I'd say I probably have about 20 stories out there. The percentage of nonprofits would be over 80%. Absolutely. And then I interview leaders too, people who may own businesses, or they're just so connected through boards and they have, 10 nonprofits they stand for, or they really have a vision for the community. And so I'll speak with them, or their product represents something very culturally diverse or something. And I want to share that with the community as well.
And then, so you'll interview them for an hour, 30 minutes. How does the process work? And then what's the end product? Is it 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs? What's the system?
Yeah. So I meet with them for an hour, whatever their comfort level is. I prefer in person because I'm a big body language person. I read that on people really well. I have a lot of body language as well. And I'm a fast talker, if you haven't noticed, so sorry. So I meet with them for an hour. Then I just take notes the whole time we chat. And then I write that up and I send it back to them, and so that it's 100% true to who they are. I don't want to represent anybody or their business or nonprofit and their purpose in a way that doesn't represent them. Then I will post that up on our blog, and then I share it on my LinkedIn. It's Locally Told KC, the Facebook, and then my personal, Instagram and Facebook is Locally Told, and then my personal LinkedIn, Caroline Ohmes. And I post every day for a week on Instagram, and then I kind of alternate between LinkedIn and Facebook because there is some like personal content thrown in there. And we just basically free promotion for them. It is a growing audience. I won't say it's huge right now, but people have been very gracious from the start, and I can only see that growing. And then, you know, the people who were with me when I had 100 followers or people, 100 audience of 100, I will absolutely revisit them when, you know, it's 1,000, 3,000, 100,000, whatever the dream may be. But it's a pretty simple process.
It is brilliant from a business development standpoint, but you're really utilizing it to empower the community because you're a better human being. And then I'm the capitalist on the other side of the shoulder being like, man, you can interview prospects all day long. And I know there's a lot of time that goes into emailing someone back and putting it together, but wow, that is really, really smart. A lot of people don't have the tenacity to do all that work. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And I will say we're also actually spinning it into a full business concept too. So we're taking, I call it my Rolodex of nonprofits. And then I will be doing HR event planning. So businesses, corporations, even networking groups and things, they are constantly asking me questions of, well, I'm looking for a nonprofit that does this, or how do I get involved with this? And so we'll be doing, you know, come to me, I'll plan an event for you with some nonprofit based off of an event in the community. One maybe that you haven't heard of, but is related to your likes. And then we might plan a happy hour, like coffee and pastries, depending on the time of the day, box lunch, that sort of thing. And we'll have this whole team building event that's based off of the community.
I love it. Before you jumped on, Scott, we were kind of talking, the Business Journal this year too is putting out a nonprofit list, book of lists kind of for nonprofits. So we were kind of, you and I, our minds right there, Scott. We were like, and then you can do this, and then you can do this.
Love the Business Journal.
Love it. Love it.
So if you are a nonprofit, I see Mike's back on here saying he's got a nonprofit. He wants to connect with Caroline and make sure you can connect with Melanie Clark, who's been on the show for the Business Journal as well. All right, Kara, what's a big win you've had this year?
Well, that one's easy, but I do want to tell Caroline, I read your We've Got You Covered story on your blog. It's really awesome. I learned, I've always been curious about that group. And I was like, oh, I had no idea they had this Amethyst Place connection. Anyway, so kudos.
Awesome. Can you explain that last thing that you said? Caroline,
what I said?
Yeah. What is the Amethyst? I always mispronounce it, but what is
Amethyst Place? So they do, they're affiliated with Operation Breakthrough, and they provide kind of transitional housing for mothers who have exited, I think it's typically like a drug rehabilitation program. We actually, when I was a Centurion, that was our project. We redid their basement, which doubled as a childcare center and was in like real need of upgrades. And so I'm a big fan of that group, and I loved the tie to We've Got You Covered that they hired a lot of the mothers from Amethyst Place. So anyway,
great shout out and a great
all
organization.
Full circle here in this.
Yeah. You want to know how full circle it comes from, Scott? Do you remember the first time we ever met at that restaurant in Leewood? And the founder of We've Got You Covered was there too. That was there too. All full circle. That was years ago. So yeah.
I got the breakfast potatoes. You were getting ready for a wedding.
Hey.
So you were dieting. Yeah. Sorry, Kara.
No. I was going to say
we're just going to keep distracting.
My first job in Kansas City was at First Watch. So
let's just keep going.
Let's just keep going.
All right. So tell us a recent win.
So that one's easy for me because the Tech Council launched a tech apprenticeship program in late 2020, early 2021. This is maybe an odd time for an organization that relies on corporate investment to double down on a pretty large program and launch it in the middle of a pandemic. But we thought there was actually no better time than when we knew that the dynamics of our workforce was going to change significantly, and that tech jobs were certainly not going to, that demand was not going to shrink. And quite literally it's going the opposite direction. There's never been more demand for tech jobs, and there's never been a larger deficit from a standpoint of, folks that are in the tech talent pipeline to those who we know have an opportunity to get there. So we launched Apprenti KC. Apprenti is a program that was started in Washington State by our Tech Council counterparts in that part of the country. And their first two corporate partners were Microsoft and Amazon. So this is a program that's designed to deliver high-performing tech talent from folks who do not have a tech talent background but have the aptitude to get there. So there's a pretty high degree of there's an assessment test that a prospective apprentice takes. Once they're in that, they're in our candidate pool. And Apprenti is focused, and this is probably, I think, the most important part of this program. It is focused on reaching out to underrepresented communities in the tech industry. So the tech industry tends to be very white and very male. And that's not just true of Kansas City. That's true of pretty much every market in the United States. So Kansas City has a real opportunity to write its own story of who we want to be as a tech industry. And we think that being inclusive and offering opportunities for these underrepresented communities to find their way will make us a pretty competitive tech hub. So we've launched that. We've since brought on companies as large as H&R Block to be a partner with us, and companies as of smaller size companies too, Bar Advisory, Genuine, which is an aviation technology company. And I knew my light was going to go off while I was talking. I'm in a sustainable office, guys. Hang on, I have coasters that I'm throwing to see if it works. I thought I was going to maybe do that on the sly while I wasn't talking, but I'm just going to be real honest with you. I'm going to throw some coasters at the light switch. Anyway, so that is our big win, and we are really, really proud of it and excited to continue to work with those companies. And I should mention veterans are one of the underrepresented communities that we are working with. Veterans make really great tech workers, especially cybersecurity and some other on the systems side. We know that when you're serving, a lot of times you have a lot of, I think, experience working in those areas. So we've been really, really excited to place some great veterans in tech apprentices. We have 330 candidates who have already passed their assessment and are waiting to be placed in Kansas City-based apprenticeships.
Whoa, go back. So you have a staffing service through the KC Tech Council?
I wouldn't call it that necessarily because we're
you're helping. You're correct. That's a bad name for it.
Yeah, well, apprenticeship is different because it really is designed. There's a training component that comes with this. So these are folks who don't have necessarily a tech career background. They have an aptitude for it. So what they do is Apprenti matches the candidates with companies, and that's what our apprenticeship manager, shout out to Erin Christensen on our team who does a tremendous job doing this for us. She will interview apprentices, match them then with companies who then get to go through the interview process, just like you would a regular candidate. But when you hire that apprentice, you then match them with a training opportunity in Kansas City that goes along. Let's say they want to get into software development. So go and do the boot camp at KU Edwards campus, perhaps, for instance, or a host of other awesome opportunities. And then once they're finished with that, they start a 1-year on-the-job training as an apprentice. So it's a little bit different. They are scaling up to that full career when they're finished, they're ready to then be a full-time employee at the level for which they were an apprentice. And 85% of the time, that company does then retain their apprentice as a full-time hire. So whereas an internship is a kind of a try before you buy type of arrangement, apprenticeship is really designed to train and then retain. So you're bringing on somebody that you see a long-term, fit with. And not only after the apprenticeship includes 85% of folks end up hired, the retention rate that those people have with the companies who hired them is significant because you've invested in them. And if you've invested in their future and in their shift and trajectory, chances are they're going to stick around with you for a long time. I think we can all think of an employee that we've either worked with or know of who's really loyal to the company that they work with because they feel that company is investing in their personal growth. And this is a great way to start a relationship that way.
Brilliant.
And I'm just going to assume, but if not, we're going to introduce you, that you've done some work with Cheryl Cooper at T-Mobile.
Yeah, we know Cheryl. Yeah, and actually T-Mobile is a tech council sponsor, and we've had some great conversations with them. T-Mobile has also been in the apprenticeship world for quite some time and has kind of figured out their own way of doing it too. And that's what's great is the beauty of this is we could have 15 apprenticeship programs working in tech in Kansas City. We're still going to have jobs for these folks. We're still going to have opportunities because it continues to grow. And we continue to want to put people on, I always think of it as it's a freeway, your tech careers. And we need a lot of on-ramps. Those on-ramps are going to look really different because some are going to need to stretch all the way back into, meet people where they are. And some folks are more ready to jump right into those tech careers, but we need a lot of on-ramps to fill that pipeline.
We just love what Cheryl's doing in that space too,
Have
right?
you come out with her book yet?
Not that I know of, but Cheryl, if you're watching, because I know you watch
Yeah,
it,
Cheryl.
when it's coming out.
Aaron and I both have known Cheryl for a couple of years, but like I didn't know some parts of her personal story. But wow, is she inspirational? So just a shout out to Cheryl.
That's awesome.
Jaron Thornhill, who's a tech guy himself, says this is awesome. He loves it. All right, Jeremy, what is a win that you have had this past year?
Wow, I will tell you, it's funny. Is it okay if I piggyback just a little bit? So I'm one of those veterans.
The awards behind you.
Oh no, those are all fictitious. I bought them at a local craft store. So I'm one of those veterans that when I left the military, I was in an apprenticeship program, and one of the people that I was doing an apprenticeship for, he encouraged me. Says, Jeremy, I know you've talked about doing this consulting gig with leadership development and coaching. He goes, I think you should do it, but I tell you what, I've got some spaces and places that I think might serve care as well. So I'm just trying to remember that without sharing all my time. So some wins for me. Mine are going to be kind of boring. So I'm going to talk about something that's kind of strange. So I don't know if anybody here's ever heard of a thing called it's a new word into my vocabulary. A vacation. Anybody ever heard of this vacation thing?
It's like yogging.
Yeah, no.
No?
I sweat. I break out in a sweat every time I try to do that. So it's terrible. So what I'm talking about is with my vacation stuff. I've taken 2 vacations in the last 20 years, and that's my own fault because hustle and grind and that myth. One of the biggest takeaways I had over the last year is to slow down, and through slowing down, I've actually been able to enrich not only myself but my business. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I get in that hustle and that grind and that focus, and then I forget to reach out. So one of my biggest wins I've learned over the last 15 months is I was able to slow down a little bit and take some time. So instead of working 80-hour weeks, I'm working 65 or whatever it is, right? And I'm sure y'all and I work 5 hours a week. I don't work very hard. I don't want anybody to accuse me of working. Nobody's ever seen it before. So, but in all reality, two of my biggest wins I'd like to share is I got into a hobby that I hadn't had in about 10 years. I'm a horseman. I'm a horse person. So I bought 5 horses over the last year, and I love horses. Yes, 5. And I always tell people, as a business consultant, as a management consultant, even we can make bad decisions, kind of as a joke. But I love having horses, and being able to share that time with my family, my friends, has really been a huge win. And the second thing is I've kind of taken some of those lessons of slowing down into some coaching. And one of the businesses, he and I were just talking last week, he had a 33% increase in revenue last year. And it was funny because most businesses, he and I were partnering together. And one of the things he encouraged his people to do is to slow down, to enjoy life. He started saying, hey, you don't just get vacation time, you have mandatory vacations from now on. And he has a great deal where they could take a week and take a vacation to the Caribbean or whatever. So anyways, it was really cool. From that 33% increase, he really saw some great movement. And so that the first win was taking the time for myself, and the second win was realizing how valuable that was. Just not that I ever need to give permission, because I'm just Jeremy. I'm just a guy, right? I'm just some person, but just saying, hey, it's okay to take time. And the worst time before a vacation and after is that week before and week after. But getting away, I've just been amazed about all the things that I've learned about just slowing down, slowing it down to become smooth, and smoothing things out to become fast. So that I know that's kind of not a very cool thing, but I thought that was phenomenal, especially with kind of COVID and the pandemic. Just for us, lots of things we had to challenge with being able to slow down and find the good stuff, hunting that good stuff that was both in our personal and professional lives.
You left out something very important, though. Where did you go on vacation?
So I went to Branson, Missouri. You're gonna laugh why I went to Branson, Missouri. I went free. It's funny, like the week before pandemic, spent a week. I'd never been to Branson in my entire life. And so in February of last year, I said, hey, we're going to go to take a week of vacation just to get away. I said, I'd never been to Branson. Now, I've been to some other cool places. I plan on going to Aruba and some other places here shortly. My wife has told me I asked her, said, hey, where would you like to go? And she had a list that was very quick. She's like, here you go. I was like, oh, okay. So I will take any recommendation. So if anybody has a recommendation, I would love to go because I am terrible at taking vacations. So I would love to hear any recommendations.
I have a recommendation for you because I just learned about it yesterday and I wanted to share it at some point on the show anyways. It is a website. It's called packupandgo.com. Have you guys heard of this? You go on there and you fill out the survey. It includes budget, includes flight or road trip, and you do this survey of what type you like. 7 days before, they send you a packet. You're not allowed to open it till the day before. But with it, what you are allowed to open is what you're supposed to pack, what time you're supposed to either be at the airport or be ready to go, and what kind of weather to expect. And then the day of when you're at the airport, you open it, tells you where you're going, and they have the whole trip planned for you. That would be good for you.
I love that. Aaron, I will owe you a glass of wine or something with that, or a bottle, because that is cool. Thank you very much. That's
My
awesome.
friend is doing it this weekend, and she was like, it's really hard for her not to open it. And so she was showing it, and I was like, I've never heard of that. And I went down a whole thing, and a lot of people do this for their honeymoons and all sorts of stuff. So packupandgo.com. I don't know who does it. They've got like 200,000 followers on Facebook, but I thought it was one of the coolest things I've seen.
You also look like John Bouchard, speaking of a technology company that just won Next Gen Business Leaders. And then a quick clarification. I was talking to a young person who is in their early 20s. They were telling me about slowing down, which is wonderful that, the Ferris Bueller look around a little bit. But slowing down is also really good for people working 80-hour weeks so they can be more productive and realize things that they may be missing to capitalize it. But if you're younger, yes, don't overwork yourself, but don't say you need more time off when you just started working. There's a big difference. I want to make sure I'm a millennial, but some millennial Gen Z folks say, I need to slow down and take some more time off. Depends how much you're working. So I want to clarify that for the listeners.
And Jill says, love seeing Jeremy. He just shared his leadership knowledge with our Growth 360 program. So awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that was a great win. Rebecca, how about you? What's been your win?
So our win at Job One, we have two. One, I already mentioned our summer work experience program and how this is a record year, and that's really exciting. The other is that we launched our community-based day services this year. During the start of the pandemic, when we had to send so many of our employees home and fulfill the contracts so that we could continue having jobs for them when they returned to work, we realized that we need to make sure that the people we support are connected to their community, so there's not an isolation or anything like that. And so instead of a traditional day facility-based service, we're out in the community, and we are supporting these individuals in finding life skills that they need to know to be safe, life skills that they want to know, and sharing some exposure to things that they didn't even know that they wanted to try. So whether it be a fun experience of going to the zoo, someone went to the cat cafe, they've gone to the park, they've gone to all these different activities that we're just excited to see them grow and advocate for themselves and feel empowered. And they had a group that went bowling, and it's really neat. It's not, it's based on the person, on the individual. So it's not, this is the list of activities we're going to do this week. So, make sure it's what do you want to do? And let's see how we can do it. Is there somebody else who wants to join us that might want the same activity? And so it's really based on the person. We all have choice in what we want to do in our activities. And so we're making sure that we can connect these individuals with their community. So that's been such a big win for us. We had the goal, we're like, please, we just want to make sure we get 16 individuals to start with, and we're at 20, and it keeps growing and growing, and that's a huge win for us. And a personal win was we also took a vacation, and that was a lot of fun. We went to St. Lucie, Florida, and stayed at the Sandpiper Bay, which is an all-inclusive in the United States. So that was amazing, and we got some home projects done during the pandemic, so that was nice.
Before the lumber went up?
No. We're more the paint type of home project. Yeah.
The stuff just keeps going up. We keep saying we're going to do stuff, but it keeps going up. Well, yeah. Look, Lakeisha says, hello, Rebecca. It's good to see you here. And then I don't know whose friend this is, but Matthew says, thanks for putting this together. So if you guys know Matthew, wave at him. And Jill also said, beautiful panel, brilliant minds. Well, it sounds like you guys have been doing really good this past year. So now is Scott's favorite part of the show. And I don't think that I teed this up in our little pre-show, but he loved to ask, if you've ever done an event at all with Scott, he loved to ask icebreaker questions. It's his like favorite thing in his entire life. So everybody's got about 2 minutes to answer. So come up with a really good one, Scott.
So it's going to be a short one, so we may end up doing two. But I was having this debate at lunch today because I was talking to an organization. Little reminder: they said they wish they would have hired Lily and James. I think they may be coming back to them for some content. And I was talking to them because they wanted to come on the show. And I said, well, they were like, "What's on the show?" And I was like, "Well, we ask icebreakers. Like, what kind of icebreakers?" I go, "Well, here's one I want to know from you. And I want to know from everyone on the panel, you know, it's a little bit of a difficult debate here, but I want to know what your best middle school or high school lunch meal was." And I know you're rolling your eyes, Aaron, but I don't like the answers we've been getting because there's better ones out there. Mm-hmm. So Caroline, what was your favorite thing that was on the high school lunch menu?
Oh man, it's probably disgusting now, but I loved the fried chicken sandwich with the tater tots, and it was that funky little like chicken patty. It wasn't like real chicken, but small rural school in Southwest Missouri, we didn't have a ton of options. But yeah, the chicken sandwich.
I like it. Kara, what about you? High school, middle school lunch? Let us know.
I love this question. Okay, so I went to like a Catholic elementary, so my middle school and grade school were the same. And these gals, I don't know, we didn't have like one of the corporate services. They made this thing called a Crispito. And if anybody out there knows what this is, I'm going to feel like a forever kinship to you because it's a bizarre little thing. It's basically a cross between like a taquito. It's like a large taquito. And they would put cheese sauce on it. And I still sometimes am like, dang, could I go for a Crispito? And then high school, we had those like the sugar cookies that were in the wax paper that the icing was just completely integrated with the cookie and in the paper. And I also think about those sometimes too. Can you tell I skipped lunch today?
I feel like you're very passionate about both of them.
Yeah, I think they're good. Crispito all the way. Jeremy, tell us about it. I mean, what do you feel? What's in your gut?
So I feel awful what I'm going to say because I'm not the little pizza they used to send you, those little, like, it was like that 5 by 7 inch pizza. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why.
Everyone says that.
And so, and I figured kind of that. So you said on menu. So in the high school, I went to Leavenworth High School, and for a little while, Little Caesars was able to bring in, so you could buy like a $2 pizza. So that was on the menu. So I always thought it was cool. Those two pizzas. Then a little caveat, because I don't always like to play within the rules. But my favorite lunch is when a parent took you out of school and you came back with McDonald's, right? Or whatever. You had that fast food and everybody was jealous, even, when you were 14 or 15 or whatever. So that's a great question. I might steal that. I'll give you credit the first 3 times.
All right, Rebecca, what are you feeling? Like, just close your eyes. What comes to mind?
I was a big nugget day girl. I'd get in line pretty early for that one with the almost neon yellow gravy that went on the mashed potatoes. I know it's so good, but I lived for that. And then the other would be my mom. She loved making our lunches. And so, but she would do cookie cutter shapes of animals. But she always had, for whatever reason, would sample our lunch. So I would always open it and I'd see like a bite, like the duck would be missing a head or or like there'd be a tail gone or something. So that was
I like that.
Yeah. So now I'm like, okay, how can I make this go along with my kids? But it doesn't really fit in their bento boxes exactly the right way. But yeah.
Aaron, come on. I don't think I'm going to like the answer. I hope you change.
I already answered this question 400 times. This is my least favorite icebreaker that you do.
Really? Well, that's maybe why it gets me all fired up because I don't like the square pizzas.
The square pizza is always going to be my answer. But to Jeremy's point, so I went to Gardner High School, and we didn't have open lunch, but I just also like breaking rules. So most of the time I had open lunch. I only got caught twice. So I didn't have to eat that square pizza that often.
Okay, you ready for another round of icebreakers, or what do you want to do?
Well, we've got 5 minutes. So actually, I saw this. I'm going to ask that question because yours was so terrible. Because this is a big trending TikTok thing right now, and I think it's really fun. So if anyone has a story, then they can tell a couple minutes story. Has anybody ever here had a bad interaction with a celebrity?
Oh.
Okay, Jeremy, you got 2 into it. You said got 2 minutes.
Okay, so my bad interaction, I was in the military and this person did a meet and greet. I'm not going to drop a name. He was a country and western singer from a long time ago. And pretty much I went in and I shook the guy's hand and he goes, "Now get out of here." And I was like, oof. I said, "Oh, I'm not a fan anymore." So that's my bad interaction with a celebrity.
It's heartbreaking. This is one of the biggest trending TikToks right now. Does anyone else have a story?
So mine's not bad, but it's a little embarrassing, but it's embarrassing for my dad. So I'm totally good telling it. So I used to do the lighting ceremony for the plaza. So I've gotten very cool opportunities to meet a lot of different, like of our switch flippers or whatever. So this one year we had Jason Sudeikis and he was still on Saturday Night Live. And so it was like earlier, before he started really doing movies. But he was on Saturday Night Live, and my dad and he's kind of yucking it up with his parents. And my dad he owns a bar, like he'll talk to everybody. So he's chatting with Jason, and he was like, "So Jason, where do you live in Chicago?" And I look at him and I'm like, "What?" And I go, "Dad, live from New York. It's Saturday night." And Sudeikis was very nice about it. He was like, "Oh, well, my mom's family's from Chicago," and like he's like, "Maybe that's how you knew." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's not."
I love it. How about you, Scott? Have you ever had a celebrity interaction that went well?
I have banged cigarettes outside the Falloon with Sudeikis. I don't smoke, but he was smoking with a girl from, it was not Breaking Bad, but it was the advertising one that was really popular.
Mad Men?
Yeah, Mad Men. And they were outside. And we were hanging out with them. I was in Vegas, and I shared a Denny's with Lennox Lewis, who's a famous boxer. And then my favorite story is being in Manhattan, Kansas. It wasn't me. It was a good friend of mine. He's at Kites, and Kites serves hot dogs, famous bar food. And we were there for fake St. Patty's Day, which is a big holiday in Manhattan, Kansas. And a gentleman came up to my buddy that had waited forever in this long line. He had 2 hot dogs, and a guy came up to him, took one of the hot dogs, took a bite out of the other one, gave it back to him and said, "No one's ever going to believe you," and walked away. It was Bill Murray. So Bill Murray's brother had gone to the golf course.
Murray does, yeah. I love
in
that.
Manhattan, and we got word that he was there. So I haven't had a negative one.
So Bill Murray visited one of the restaurants that I used to work at in downtown Kansas City. And he, like in the middle of service, just got up from his chair, walked back into the kitchen, washed his face in the hand wash sink, like by where the cooks work, and then like walked out. Like it was just one of those things where he bites the hot dog and says, "No one's ever going to believe you." Like that sounds like a very obscure moment, but it happened.
He just lives life on his own terms. Gotta love it.
I had a Bill Murray.
I mean, are we setting this up for you? But I want Rebecca to go as well.
Rebecca,
I don't think I've had a bad celebrity experience. I met O.J. Simpson.
Whoa!
Where did you tell the story?
It was when Marcus Allen scored his 100th touchdown for the Chiefs, and O.J. Simpson was one of the color commentators for the game. And after the win, they were all at Houston's on the plaza, and my family was there. And I was going to the restroom, and he was coming out and was kind of by that kitchen area, and we collided, and he was like, he kind of propped me up, and I was a little kid, and he just was like, "Here you go." And I went into the bathroom, and that was it. And then when we left, he like kind of like patted my head. So.
Well, I like that. So if you're a TikTok user, go on TikTok. There's tons of great stories of celebs. So. No, I've got too many, Scott. We don't got time for that. We're only 1 minute in.
Oh, well, now, see, there's a cliffhanger. Now we're going to have to go back to it because the pizza just doesn't make sense to me. For some reason, it wasn't what I liked.
Fine, I'll tell one really quick one. I'm at a bar. I'm short. I'm 5'2". I look way taller on the show. My friend at the time is like 5'1". So the waitress, we're like in the VIP section. We're young. We're like 23 years old. She tries to go over our head with the thing of tequila shots, right? But somehow that doesn't work out. And so we get covered in tequila and we hear this man screaming at her about getting tequila on his alligator shoes. And we turn around and this man, I was just so horrified to this day. And I don't care about saying names. It was Vince Vaughn. And I just remember thinking he was so funny. And I didn't know this was in Dallas. I didn't know he was at the table behind us. And he was so mean to this girl. And then on top of that, I was covered in tequila. And I was like, we were trying to make this girl feel better. And it was just not a great experience. But I've had really great experience with all the Kansas City ones, right? Like the Rob Riggles, the Jason Sudeikis. So maybe it's just because he's not from Kansas City. So with that, we're going to wrap up. That was a fun icebreaker. Way more fun, Scott. So we'll work on it together. Okay?
It was a better one.
You got to get on TikTok. I tell you, every week you got to get on TikTok. Thank you so much to our panel for being here. We really, truly appreciate. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And, of course, thank you so much to Bank of Blue Valley for allowing us to have this platform. We will see you same time, same day next week right here. See you later.